Hello, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us again. This is the Profitable Business Mindset Summit, where we are giving you practical steps and strategies to boost your confidence, design the life that you so desire, the career, family, whatever it is that you're seeking. We're here to help you reach that level. And today we're having our interview with Erin Flynn. Erin Flynn helps freelancers make more money without working more hours. Erin once was in a place where she was constantly working and meeting deadlines. She was able to move out of that environment with planning, proper positioning, and firm boundaries and polished systems, which I'm sure she will tell us all about. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today, Erin.
Thanks so much for having me, Cynthia. I'm so excited to dive in.
Yeah, so can you just explain a little bit or tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Yeah, so I am a web designer and I've been making websites for 2/3 of my life at this point. I started when I was 13 and back in 1999. And so I have 20 years of experience, which is a little crazy to say at 33 years old, but it's just something that, I fell in love with as a kid and I was actually able to turn into a career. I did like some random freelance projects, in my teens and early 20s, but I made it my actual full-time business in 2012. And man, I made a lot of mistakes. And so now I help other people from making those same mistakes.
Wow, that's great. That's great because as we do start our businesses, there are a lot of ups and downs. Okay, on that note, can you tell us a little bit about your business, like your website? How do you help people create websites?
Yeah, so for my web design clients, we actually do, it's a very high-end product at this point. When I started, it was definitely not. It was, like those super low-priced products. But as my abilities grew and I learned more about marketing, now when I do web design with clients, we actually do like a full suite. So we look at their branding, we look at all of their copy and their messaging, we help them create funnels, and we often have like these ongoing relationships where we track stats and goals and Google Analytics. Then we make changes monthly based on those, record them, and adjust as needed.
Wow.
So it's turned into a much bigger, more advanced, business. And so now I get to teach recently it was only other web designers, but now I've expanded to all sorts of freelancers who offer service-based businesses how to charge those premium prices and offer a great product and make their clients happy without working insane hours, because nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, we've all heard the dream. You have your own business, you work your own hours. Everyone's trying to get there.
Yes. It definitely takes, it's not an overnight thing to suddenly be able to say, yep, I'm going to go skiing this morning instead of answering my email. That takes a while.
I spoke with one gentleman. He put it like this. He said he's a 20-year overnight wonder.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So speaking of how you cross from the low end to the high end, how did you make that transitions, and what obstacles or what things did you learn along the way making that transition? Because I think a lot of people start there that, you feel like if you charge cheap, you'll get more business, but I don't necessarily think that's the case.
I don't think that's true either, but it kind of makes sense when you're like, oh, well, if I make a website or I offer copywriting for like this low price, and how can people say no? Well, they're going to say no because when they're at like the level of business that, you and I are, Cynthia, and probably a lot of people tuning in, we're going to be like, what, $500 for a website? That can't possibly be good quality at that price. So you actually are excluding all of the high-end customers who are actually the ones who value expertise. When you have like a low price product, like when I started selling websites, it was $500. And I was a pixel pusher. I did whatever they told me to do, even when it was a bad idea. And, because they're basically paying for my tech skills as opposed to any type of strategy. So that's not something where you just enter your business and you can go straight to premium price. Like I couldn't have started my business charging $10,000 for a website.
Yeah.
I didn't know enough about marketing and strategy to do that.
Yeah.
I should have charged more than 500. I was better than that, but you think $500 is a lot of money because it is to you, but that doesn't mean that it is to the people that you're targeting. And I would actually encourage you to target people who are making more money than you to buy your services, because if they're making the same as you, then of course they're going to frame it totally differently, where you know, if somebody's making, let's say, $50,000 a year, that's fantastic in their business, right? That's great. That's nothing, you know, I mean, I know we all talk about like the 6 and 7 figure businesses, but there's nothing wrong with having a $50,000 a year business.
Yes.
But are you going to spend $10,000 on a website? Probably not, because that's a ton of money to that person who's making 50,000. But if they're making 100,000 or 200,000, $10,000 for a website is reasonable. Like, that's where they're going to be looking at them starting at. And so you just have to consider that there is an audience for every price range. You can be in any price range you want. You don't have to go super ridiculously high end premium. You can be somewhere in the middle and be perfectly happy. But you don't lose clients by charging more. You just attract a different type of client.
Oh, that's a good analysis. And then too, so like you said, you just started with website making. So how did you transition into adding in services? Because now you said it's like a whole suite of services that you offer.
So I don't do it all. I subcontract out some of the work. So I know enough to be dangerous in a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that I should be doing everything, because you can't be an expert in every single thing. But I do encourage you, if you are going to hire, you know, subcontractors or something like that, you should know enough about what you're hiring them to do to know whether they're producing good quality work. And so I don't know all of the ins and outs of Google Analytics, but the person that I hire does. And I know enough to look at the report she put together and know what we need to change on the website. So you can definitely, you know, utilize other people's expertise and know enough about what they're delivering and what they're showing you, you know, to be able to make a good assessment over the information that they're providing. But again, you cannot possibly know all of those things when you start out. So if you, no matter what business you're in, whether you're selling products or services, or you're a copywriter or web designer, learn some marketing, because marketing is going to be a huge factor in any business. Because if you're a copywriter, you have to help market your clients. If you're a web designer, you have to help market. And no matter what you do, you have to help market your own business. So marketing, I would say, is like the big missing skill for so many entrepreneurs and freelancers online.
Yes, that's very good advice. And I like too how you said that you, the business owner or creative owner, can't do everything. That it's okay to solicit help.
Totally. And you know what, in the earlier stages of your business, you don't have to subcontract, because that's scary too. But you know, make friends with somebody in a complementary industry so that you can refer work to each other. And then, you know, like if you're a web designer, for example, be friends with a copywriter, and then you can refer work to each other. And you know that, you know, the quality of the copy that you're going to get to insert into that website is going to be good. So there are all sorts of these relationships you can do.
Oh, good. So what do you believe, like we all are desiring the things you said, we want to help people, we want to even offer services beyond what we are expert at. So what do you believe are some of those limiting mindsets or beliefs that stop us from achieving those particular goals?
I think a lot of things sometimes have to do with, we think that we are our ideal customer. And so using web design as an example again, because that's what I am, I think, you know, I used to think nobody would pay $5,000 or $10,000 for a website, because I sure as heck wouldn't. Like, why would I spend that much? Right? Because I can do it myself. So it's easy in my head, this is easy. Nobody's going to spend that much money. But guess what? It's not easy to people who are outside of your industry, no matter what your industry is. So you are not their accountant. You're not their bookkeeper. You don't get to tell them what they get to spend or not. If you have something that provides value to them, they're the ones that make the decision onto whether they'll pay that price or not. And a lot of it has to do with selling the value of what you're providing, not just, you know, tech features or whatever. But if you can convey that value, then why would you, like your thoughts of this isn't worth that are not what is important. It's their thoughts on whether it's worth it. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things that holds us back is we think that if I wouldn't do that, if I wouldn't pay that, if I wouldn't do something that way, we think that other people wouldn't, but that's not the case at all.
Yeah. And that's such a good point that, and I believe it's been said throughout this summit that that's one thing that holds us back is because we make decisions based on what we believe, and we are not the customer. We're the ones who actually are offering the service. So it should definitely be on what the customers or your clients believe instead. Yeah, wow, that's very good. So then what do you think are some of the secrets to trying to get ahead or trying to reach your goal, and like what steps can we take to get there?
One of the things, and to some people watching this may just be like, Erin, duh. But a lot of us often need a reminder is we need to know how much money we actually are looking to make. And we can't say something like, I want to make $100,000 or $500,000. We can't even just like write a check to ourselves and post it next to our computer, because that doesn't break down the steps to get there. So if you can figure out, and I'm talking specifically about monetary goals, but this works for any goal, you have to figure out how you're going to get there. So if you want to make $100,000, then how many services or products do you need to sell? How many calls do you need to get on? How many people do you need on your email list? How many people do you need to get in front of on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to make those sales? And that's common sense, but often we just say, no, I want to make this much money. And then we're like, but I'm selling websites for $500. Like why, that doesn't connect to make 100,000 and for me to still be like living, because I would just work myself to death. We don't make those connections that are super obvious. So whatever your goal is, whether it's making a certain amount of money or, being able to take vacations or, take every Friday off or whatever, figure out how to structure your business in a way that makes sense to get there.
And I believe, like you said, it's not just for monetary, it's across the board. And we do that all the time. Like we say, oh, I want a brand new house. I want the house in this area. And meanwhile, you have done nothing. Can you afford the house in that area? You know?
Exactly.
Or is your credit good enough to get the house in the area? Are you going to just pay for the house in the area? So there's no goals, there's no direction. And a lot of times that's how we end up leading our lives. And then we wonder why we are not leading our life by design. It's more like you're being more reactive than proactive. So something happens, you just end up reacting to it.
Totally. And I think that one of the big problems with that is we have this goal and we want it, right? But then if we haven't, done whatever it is to achieve it, that new house, that new car, whatever, we're just like, another year's gone by and I didn't take that vacation. I didn't move into the house I want. And then we start feeling like a failure. And we're not failures. We just didn't plan and take action properly, because you can achieve pretty much anything if you figure out how to actually get there and you follow it. And the caveat to this is you have to take action on these things, even on the days you don't want to. It's like if you're on a diet, you want to lose 10 pounds. Well, I might want to eat a piece of cake, but I can't if I want to actually achieve that bigger goal. So you have to think about it no matter what it is in that way. If you want a new house, you can't go out and spend all of the extra money that you're making each month on new clothes. I mean, if you want a fantastic wardrobe and that's your goal, do that. But you can't have the new house if you're not saving up for that down payment. So it works on no matter what it is we're trying to achieve.
Yes, it's like getting used to being comfortable being uncomfortable, because a lot of times we want to remain in that comfort zone, but we need to get into that mindset, that feeling of this is uncomfortable, but it's what I need to do to reach to where I want to go. A lot of times they say that has to do with a why. So what do you say about that? Like you have to have a why you're doing it, and it has to be something bigger than, I want to live around rich people. It has to be something deeper, something more meaningful about that. So what is your insight concerning that?
Yeah. So I think, let's use the example of a house, right? it's nice to want a big fancy house, right? But if our why is just because that sounds nice, that's not going to be something that really we're going to work that hard towards. Like, that sounds nice, but whatever.
Uh-huh.
If we want that house because, we've got 3 kids, or we're planning on having 3 kids, and we need those 4 bedrooms, and we want to be in that great school district,
Yes.
guess what? We're going to be so much more motivated to get that down payment for that house, to get the moving happening.
Yes.
And that's the same thing. Like, when people say, I want to make $100,000. Well, why do you want to make $100,000? Like, will that give you the vacations you want? Can you put your kids in private school? Like, what is the actual why behind that? So I always encourage, when I'm talking about money, to figure out like the actual income, like what you actually need for your current income, like, and cover all of your expenses and put some money in savings. But also, if you want to add in that new house or whatever, then if you break that down and you know that that's part of the goal that you're saving up for, and that's an actual real number that you're trying to hit for a specific goal, you're going to be so much more likely to get on those sales calls, even when you don't feel like it.
They're very good steps, very good practical steps. So what are some of the ways you come to decisions in your business? Like, if you have a big decision you're trying to make, what steps will you go through to reach what you believe is the best decision?
So I am probably not the best indicator of this. So if anybody's watching this has taken the DISC assessment, I am a C and a D. Like, those are my high marks. C first, so that's data driven. I look at the data. And then D is like, I want it done. I don't waste time on decisions. I just do. Sometimes, I maybe needed a little bit more data. Maybe, or maybe I've gotten into things that, like, the data looks good, but I didn't think about my feelings. And so I've made a decision to maybe offer a service that actually might make me a lot of money, but it's not something that I actually enjoy doing, or it doesn't support the lifestyle that I want. So sometimes that can backfire a little bit. But I would always encourage everyone to go through like a 3-point system of, what does the data say? Like, let's look at actual numbers and actual statistics on whatever we're trying to do, whether it's buying a new house or a new car, or, buying a program for our business. Then also, make sure it aligns with what you actually want in your life. That is so important, because again, I used to offer services that looked good on paper, but I hated. And then the third thing is just, make that decision. You cannot, not making a decision is also a decision. You will end up never moving things forward if you look at too much data. So give yourself an allotted amount of time. Doesn't have to be 5 minutes, like I do a lot, but think about, depending on like the gravity of how important of a decision it is, give yourself an allotted amount of time if you have trouble making decisions. So maybe you need, 2 weeks to like look through all of this data and make a decision and sit through your feelings. That's fine. If it's something that's like not expensive and, you think according to the data and what you want in your life, it's going to be good. Just buy the program or the book or whatever. Like, stop comparing things on Amazon for 6 hours. Just buy it and read it,
Yeah, and I believe that's a good characteristic to have, to make quick decisions, because a lot of times that's how we miss opportunities, or we don't act on something, is because we're sitting there so long just trying to decide what to do. And like you're saying, if it's not like a huge amount of commitment or, decision or money, then you should be able to make that come to a conclusion very quickly. Yeah. And so what is one of the best career decisions that you have made? A career or your life, or what's just one of your best decisions that you've made that you feel?
My best one, I think, was definitely starting my own business. I had worked a horrible job. I'm sure some people watching will be able to relate. Absolutely miserable. And I would like go home crying like multiple days a week. I would drink a ton of wine, and it was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And I didn't have a plan when I quit my job. I didn't have anything else lined up, but I started my own business, and it has been life-changing. It took a while for me to get everything under control. And had I known the work, maybe I wouldn't have started my own business. But it was worth all of the headache, all of the stress, all of the struggles. Now I have a pretty stable business, which I absolutely love. It works for me. It works for my lifestyle. And that is definitely the best decision that I've made. And I would go back and make it again a million times over.
Yes, yes. And that is one thing that I've definitely heard throughout is doing your own business, creating, especially people who were in corporate or worked for someone else before, having their own. They always, always say it's the best decision, even though it was work and everything, it still resonate as the best decision ever. Yeah, so that should be an encouragement to all of us that, especially if we're stuck in a place where we don't like, that starting your own business will be the best decision that you ever make. Yeah. So then too, what are you grateful for today and why?
I am grateful for so much, so I'll keep it short. I'm grateful for my husband, who has been a great supporter of my business, even in the early days where I was making, no money, and he was actually the one supporting us. And he has, put up with a lot of, stress and tears and, me feeling like I'm a failure and telling me that I'm not. So I'm so grateful for him. It would have been so much harder without him. That's not to say that, anybody watching, you don't have to have a supportive spouse. You can make it work. I have many students that have, but if you have one, all the better. And then the second thing I'm grateful for is fun opportunities like this, Cynthia, where I get to meet people like you and your audience, and I get to connect with so many people who are going to change the world.
Yes. Oh, wow. Wow. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think it is very important that we have a good support system. So like you're saying, on those days when you're like, I cannot do this anymore, I'm giving up, they're like, nope, yes, you can. You have everything inside of you that takes to get it done.
Yes. And for anybody who maybe doesn't have a supportive spouse or somebody at home, join a mastermind group, find somebody, who's also running their own business, will understand it and get it. And, you have people in your corner. You just maybe need to go looking for them a little bit.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. So lastly, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to discuss in this interview?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like I could talk to you all day, Cynthia. This has been so much fun.
Yes, yes. I love it. So yeah, just one thing, one tip, one strategy, one way maybe we can cross over for those who are still working. One way they can definitely cross over into their own business, because sometimes you think, oh, everybody will say cookies. Everybody is making cookies. How am I going to stand out in making cookies? Yes, you can make a difference making cookies. We all have something to give, definitely.
Oh, yes. I love that. I want to spin off that and say, for the people who are, starting their business, maybe they feel like their industry is oversaturated. And so they might be sitting at a desk job still, or they may have started their business and, they don't have that support of a full-time income. And they're like, how can I possibly compete against the cookie makers or the other copywriters or the other web designers?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. There's only one of you in the world, and you have something special, something that other people are going to be attracted to. They're going to want to say, I want Cynthia's cookies. I don't want Erin's cookies. I want Cynthia's cookies because she's got, something, that extra jazz that she puts in them. She does she's got a secret ingredient that makes me want it. And so just think about what you have that can set you apart, and just lean into that as much as you can, because that's the way you stand out. The way you stand out is by being you and not trying to be like everybody else.
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. That is great, great advice. And I hope you all can take that and run with it. It's only one of you. And you definitely have something to give. Again, thank you so much for joining us here at the Profitable Business Mindset Summit. We will have more great speakers like Erin giving us great strategies and tips on how to make that dream life, how to design the life we so desire. Again, thank you, Erin, so much for taking time out to be with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Okay, bye.